the Kiwi side, with a number of changes from the team beaten 8-0 at Rotorua last Sunday. In the backs, Mark Elia, who missed the second test through injury, returns to the left wing, and Gary Mercer takes over on the right wing from Tony Iro. But the big change is in the Kiwi backline at standoff, where 22-year-old Aucklander Kelly Shelford comes in for his first test. Brendan Toot has been dropped, and so Hugh McGann, captain, shifts from second row to loose forward, and Mark Hotto, who came on as a replacement at Rotorua, takes his place in the starting lineup today. Now, the Australian side has undergone some last-minute changes because of Paul Sidonen's injured ankle, which has ruled him out. So Mel Meninga, their big 100-kilogram, 16-stone centre, moves into the second row, a position he has played in before at Test match level. Now, his departure from the back line has given Michael O'Connor, the Manly winger, his first opportunity in the series. He comes onto the wing for Dale Shearer, who joins Tony Curry in the centres. Well, Graham Lowe, what do you make of those changes?
Well, I think they're effective changes as far as Australia is concerned, Brendan. Having Mel Meninga in the second row won't weaken them in any way whatsoever. He's a tremendously big man, a skillful man, and I'm sure he'll certainly provide plenty of fire.
So Kelly Shelford, the only new cap on the field today, starts this test match. New Zealand playing from right to left, and Gary Belcher seemed to be completely bedazzled by the bounce from the kick from Kelly Shelford, and the Australians a little slow, 10 metres from their own line. There's Mel Meninga in this slightly unaccustomed position for him today. As we mentioned, he has played test match football before in the second row, did so against England in 1986, and he certainly has the physical credentials, as it were, at 106 kilograms. So Bobby Fulton, the Australian coach, keen to keep that big weight advantage with the Australians in their forward lineup. Wally Lewis gets his kick in. Now Darryl Williams, but no, it's Elia. Comes across and decides to kick from his deep kick from Wally Lewis and rolls the ball into touch just a couple of metres outside the quarter line. Interesting tactic there, Graham.
It certainly is, Brendan, and it's also interesting to note that Wally Lewis won the toss and he's chosen to play into the wind for the first half, which is normally, you know, the opposite's done, but I'd say he's done that to try and be able to come home with plenty of steam with their big players.
So from the scrum, Australia with the loose head winning it. Gary Belcher, their fullback. Still inside the Australian half. As Steve Roach steps out of one tackle, makes 10 metres. Kerrod Walters at dummy half. Wally Lewis looks for some support, decides to hang onto the ball himself, is taken in the tackle by Horo and Sam Stewart, as Kerrod Walter tries to sneak away, and the New Zealanders up inside the 5-metre mark. The Australians receive a penalty.
Kerrod Walter's very effective from running from dummy half. We've got to be sure we have a block in there.
Wally Lewis, now there's been all sorts of stories about just what sort of physical state Wally Lewis is in. Some would have you believe that his arm, that he broke in the World Cup, is played up in the second test at Rotorua. Others said that he damaged it in a gym during the week. However, he's taken his place on the field. And Australia inside the New Zealand half for the first time. This is Haslip, the man who's replaced Greg Alexander at halfback today in the Australian side, wearing number 7, the only New South Welshman again in this Australian backline today. Walters, Lewis, the long pass to Belcher. He gets away from Dwayne Mann. Now the Australians trying to spin it wide. Bradley Clyde, just 15 metres outside the New Zealand quarter line, is Meninga with a nicely timed pass to Hasler. A big gap here, and there's a whole wall of green jerseys. Must be a try. Oh, goodness gracious me. It looks so easy for the Australians. Mel Meninga, who is it that scores the try, and he's not happy. Well, it was that man Hasler again, the man who set up that try in Rotorua last week. And Australia are up to a 4-0 lead. Now just look at number 7, Meninga, with a beautifully timed pass to Hasler, and there was just no one home. And it was about 6-on-1 here. It was only a matter of choice who scored the try, and Mel Meninga in his new position goes in and scores the try.
I think a lot of that, Brendan's happened from the markers not chasing, not putting pressure, working from the inside out, and the outside backs, the outside players are just being left with numbers that they can't handle. It's just a matter of straight advantage. 4-on-3 that was there, or 4-on-2.
Yes, when you look at the split here, from Meninga in the pass to Hasler, he just couldn't have believed his luck there. I mean, it was such a big gap, you could have put 2 buses through it.
And now Meninga with the opportunity to convert his try from a very handy position, right under the posts.
Frank, I don't know if you've noticed or if you agree, but I'm a keen one for having the first marker really work hard. A lot of the sides seem to have the second marker doing most of the chasing, but the first marker is a yard in front. It's a good kick from Noel there. The first marker is the closest to the runners, and he's got to work a lot to lead the defence, and that's just what didn't happen out there. The first marker just stood there. The second marker was also nonplussed. There was no chases from the inside out at all, and New Zealand was just caught simply with a lack of numbers. It's got to work from the markers inside out.
Agree.
So Kelly Shelford restarts play after 4 minutes of play. The Australians out to a 6-0 lead, and the New Zealanders stung on shore by that superb try the Australians scored. However, the New Zealanders hot on attack as the ball rolls away from the Australians, from Michael O'Connor, and into touch just 10 metres short of the Australian line. Gary Freeman, the New Zealand scrum half. Now, chance here for the New Zealanders. Shelford. Tony Kemp, the long pass to Kevin Eroff. Can't get away from his opposite number, Tony Curry. And the New Zealanders receive a penalty here, I think, probably for not allowing Ero to play the ball. And Wally Lewis, who's had plenty to say in the first 5 minutes of this match. The Australians, I think, were pretty unhappy about that attempted head-high tackle on Meninga as he scored the try. And they had plenty to say to the Kiwis, and this man, Ray Tennant, after the try. And no shortage of, shall we say, friendly conversation going on at the moment.
It's very important at this stage that the New Zealanders don't take any notice of that. They've got to just settle down and keep playing their own game. Wally, in my opinion, last week dictated the whole of the second half. He slowed the game right down, and New Zealand's got to go out there, be positive, play their own game, forget what Wally's doing, because he will try and run it in many ways.
So Kelly Shelford, not only does he have the responsibility of being a key and pivotal player in the New Zealand team, and this is his first test, but he's also been thrust into the role of goal kicker. And he's not a regular goal kicker even for his club side, Glenora, here in Auckland. So added responsibility. From a handy position, this to make it 6-2. And so the problem that beset New Zealand at Rotorua last weekend is continuing here at Mount Smart Stadium. Shelford from a handy position. Now that would have done his confidence the world of good if he could have landed that. And so the Australians retain that 6-0 lead, and I guess, Graham, you just can't afford to throw away chances like that.
Certainly can't, and I think a big responsibility is on Huey's shoulders now to get into Kelly's ear and tell him to forget all about that. Just get back onto the game now and produce what you're capable of.
Darryl Williams from fullback makes play up to within 10 metres of halfway. 6 minutes into the first half of the match, and Australia ahead by 6 points to 0. Gary Mercer, who has retained his place in the New Zealand side, came in for the second test. Gary Freeman kicking in behind those Australian backs, but Gary Belcher, he's so quick, this man. Such a solid last line of defence in the Australian side. Gary Belcher to Michael O'Connor, coming in for his first test of Test Match League in this series after sitting on the reserve bench for the first two. And the gap again as Paul Vaughton makes 15 metres up over halfway. The New Zealand defence again just a little slow to close in on Vaughton. Haslett to Lewis, taken in a solid tackle by Kelly Shelford right on halfway. And the New Zealanders come away with it while Shelford and Lewis involved in a real skirmish on halfway. And they're still at it. A little psychological drama, I guess, going on here between these two opposite numbers, each keen to assert their authority over the other. And Mr. Tennant having a word to say on the two of them. So it was Lewis that had the ball as Shelford went in for the tackle. It was Hugh McGann that wrestled the ball free, and while the two of them on the field continued to exchange blows. Now it's Lewis that's being penalised here. And New Zealand received the penalty just inside the Australian half.
Again, Brendan, Wally is dictating the game already. He's sure he's been penalised there. He's having plenty to say. He stopped any momentum that New Zealand might have been gathering there. New Zealand has got to make sure they concentrate. Just keep concentrating, keep their minds on the job and forget what Wally Lewis is talking about.
Mark Elia from the tap kick. Difficult one there for Shelter to pick up, but coming through was Darryl Williams, who picked it up well. And the Australians up offside inside the 5-metre mark, and they chipped Mr. Tennant. That's another 10 metres. Now they must kick the goal from here. This is very handy. Boy, it's really boiling over out there at the moment.
Wally Lewis has got to realise that he's a player, not a referee.
So Shelford lining up for his second shot at goal, and I guess he's relieved that this is a fairly handy kick. Now, strictly speaking, he shouldn't have any difficulty with this at all in practice. I guess you'd knock this over 9 times out of 10, but it's a different environment he finds himself in at the moment. A 20-metre kick. The sort of kick you would normally expect someone to throw over from there. That's the sight the big Kiwi crowd wanted to see, the flags being raised. And Kelly Shelford has put the first points on the board for New Zealand after 10 minutes of play, and the gap is narrowed back to 4 points. So Shelford, I guess, rather lucky to have an opportunity a couple of minutes after he missed that first kick, and now that he's got that one behind him, I'm sure it'll settle him down no end. So Lewis restarts the match. Sam Stewart running the ball out from inside his own quarter. Brent Todd makes 10 metres up the field and still inside the New Zealand half. Dwayne Mann from dummy half. Taken up by James Goulding, and it's Wally Lewis, who's in a fiery mood this afternoon with these Kiwis. No way through there for Gary Freeman. And Williams from fullback, trying to bounce that ball into touch. It's not a bad looking kick, but Hancock putting himself between the ball and the touchline, gets his first touch of the match, but the New Zealand defence in the form of Kivanero comes down heavily on Hancock, and I think he receives a penalty for that.
I think it's significant at the moment that both sides are trying to play the territorial game with the kicking ground. Do you see it the same way? But the thing is that once you put them in down there in their 22, you've got to keep them there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right playing the kicking game, but leading up to the kicking game, the Kiwis have let themselves down a little bit because they're still running one out, not taking any pressure off the ball carrier at all. They're running on ones. They've got to support one another a little more. The markers have to work hard here.
Kerrod Walter, the Australian hooker, looking for a way through there, makes play up and two inside the New Zealand half. The Australians receive a penalty for interference on Walters, not allowing him to play the ball, and the finger pointed at Brent Todd. So Lewis, a couple of metres inside the New Zealand half, finds his touch, and Australia inside the New Zealand quarter line.
Right over, man.
Walters with the free kick. Steve Roach charging at full speed. 15 metres short of the line. Walters going wide to Meninga. A little dummy, but the cover defence was there to wrap up Mel Meninga. Hasler, the dummy from Hasler. This time the slippery little New South Welshman doesn't elude the New Zealand defence. Lewis. Curry to O'Connor, but the pass was a little too high and he had to stop. Now, O'Connor did have a few metres to work in there. It was a pity from his point of view that the pass wasn't better directed. However, Bradley Clyde 8 metres short of the line. Australia ahead by 6-2, 14 minutes into the first half. Hasler, the grubber kick from Meninga, and now the chase is on from Belcher, but the kick was too deep.
Good tactics from Australia there. They sucked the whole of the New Zealand defence over to this near side of the park and then open it wide out.
Now from the restart, just outside the New Zealand quarter line, Brent Todd trying to break through. Freeman again, kicking down the near touchline, covered by Belcher, takes it 10 metres from his own line as he's challenged by Tony Kemp. Gets his pass away to Michael O'Connor, who eludes Kelly Shelford to Hancock. Gets away from Sam Stewart, but Kelly Shelford and Stewart pick him up. Meanwhile, it's Mark Otto, I think, who's receiving some attention on the near side. And the interception must be a try. Yes! It's that man who did it in Christchurch, Mark Elia. He hangs around like a hungry scavenger, but the Australians didn't learn their lesson from Christchurch. When this man is around, you've got to watch him. He did it again today, and this time he's gone under the posts, and it's 6-all. And this is how it happened. Look for number 5 at the bottom of your picture, and he scooped on that pass, said thank you very much, and then he goes for 4 points.
That try came from good chasing initially from the New Zealand kick. New Zealand put a lot of pressure on Australia, and they are no different to any other team. If you put them under pressure, they'll panic pass, and that's exactly what they did then. And with Mark Elia as a scavenger around, he'll just sweep it on them with every chance he gets.
So a chance now for New Zealand to hit the front. Kelly Shelford, another very handy kick right out in front of the posts. And New Zealand have bounced back in fine style from that early setback and lead the Australians by 8 points to 6.
Very notable there too that Gary Belcher, when he passes this so-called pass, he had his back turned to the opposition, and that's something you just don't do. The only thing that worries me, that's only the second try in 3 games from the New Zealanders, and both of them have been from intercepts.
So Mark Elia back in the New Zealand team. He missed the second test because of an injury he suffered in Christchurch, and his return well and truly worth it from the Kiwi point of view. So the New Zealanders, I'm sure, with the new heart and new commitment, it must have been a stinging reversal to see that early try they gave away. But they fought back well and now lead by 8 points to 6. And we've had 20 minutes of play in the second half. And they're getting plenty of support, vocal support from the crowd here at Mount Smart Stadium as well, despite the fact that the ground and the playing field is a considerable distance from the stands. It's not like Carlaw Park, where there's a very close and intimate relationship between the players and the actual grandstands. Here at Mount Smart, there is a wide separation of the track, but nonetheless plenty of support for the Kiwis at the moment. Australia with possession. It's Hancock, and Sam Stewart, I think, is penalised, and the Australians receive a penalty. And
I think Hugh McGann should go over and kick Gary Freeman fair in the pants for that, because there's no need for it whatsoever. It was just silly niggling tactics that New Zealand can't afford to do, and Gary's too fine a player to be involved in that sort of thing and give him dumb penalties away.
And Hancock, as a result of that interference on him by Freeman, is in fact receiving some medical attention as the match continues, as Sam Bacco runs it up inside to the New Zealand half. And James Goulding comes up with the ball, however. There might have been a fumble there, I think, and we'll come back to the scrum. There is Mr. Ray Tennant, the Englishman from Castleford, today controlling his 3rd test match. And from that little fumble from the play the ball, Australia received the loose head. 10 metres inside the New Zealand half. New Zealand ahead by 8 points to 6. Haslip and the New Zealanders caught offside. I think it might have been Iro and Shelford. And Lewis to kick for touch. So we're midway through the first spell here of this, the 3rd test at Mount Smart Stadium, and New Zealand ahead by 8 points to 6 as Wally Lewis tries to slip through a half gap, but the cover defence snuffs that out very quickly. The only other time New Zealand have been ahead in this series, and there's in the opening minutes in Christchurch when Kevin Iro kicked the penalty for the Kiwis to lead 2-0, but that was short-lived. Walters to Roach, only 10 metres short of the New Zealand line. Walters. Australians looking dangerous. Heslop to Belcher, he slips through the tackle and is brought down just a metre short. But once he slipped out of that tackle, he looked as if he was through, but some very quick cover defence there by the Kiwis snuck the Australian fullback out. And the ball rebouncing from the boot of Wally Lewis, and New Zealand with possession and 6 tackles.
Very good defence there from Daryl Williams. He saved a certain try for the Kiwis.
As Gary Mercer breaks out of 1 tackle, takes play up to the quarter line, still inside the New Zealand half. Brent Todd. No way past that wall of flesh. The combined frames of Roach and Meninga. Vaughton. There's Mark Horu, who's received a knock in the first couple of minutes of this match and was on the sideline for 2 or 3 minutes getting his head heavily bandaged. As Daryl Williams kicks the ball deep. Belcher a few metres outside his quarter line with Hancock. Well, Frank Endicott, I suppose you'd have to say after 20 minutes this is probably the best start that New Zealand have made to the series so far.
Definitely the best start. The thing is, they've got to carry on with the job. And notice, I've got to agree with Graham on the marker situation. If you have a look at there, they're just going either side of the ruck. The second man should stay there and act as a block.
Now, room here on the left wing for Tony Curry as he slips it to Hancock, but Hancock no way past Kevin Iro. Hancock, the man who scored the only try in the second test at Rotorua last week, playing on the left wing for Australia. Freeman, who seemed to cop a flying hand as he was feeding the ball into the scrum there. I don't think it was deliberate. In fact, it might have been from one of his own teammates. However, Daryl Williams, the New Zealand fullback. Shelford at dummy half. Again to Hordo.
That's the first time so far the forwards have had into passing. Even though it was only 1 pass, there was still a half break on. That's all they have to do.
Kevin Iro. And away goes Mercer, but I think he might have stepped into touch. Or was the pass forward? The referees brought them back anyway.
Again, Brendan, from support play. That's all New Zealand has to do. Carry on the support play.
Let's have a look at that again. Kelly Shelford with the long pass to Sam Stewart, who timed his pass nicely to Iro. Now he slipped the pass to Mercer, and I think it was judged it was forward. Now the Australians with the loose head. Belcher. To Bradley Clyde, still inside the Australian half. 23 minutes in the first spell, and away goes Greg Roach. He's got Vaughton with him, no one home. Freeman, and Australia get the try. Dale Shearer, great support play from the Australians. They kept it alive and they stretched the New Zealand defence, and Shearer gets the try. And the break initially made by this huge man, Steve Roach, running with the ball in one arm. Vaughton, the vice-captain, was there. Freeman came back, scragged Vaughton, but great support play from Dale Shearer, who finished it off, and Australia lead by 10-8.
Without sounding boring, Brendan, again, as Frank and I have pointed out, it's come from the mark areas. That's where the breaks are being made. There's 3 or 4 have already occurred, only little breaks, but that resulted in a try. From New Zealand has to work from the markers. It's the key area in defence, especially playing against such a mobile forward pack with giants as this Australian team got in there, at their disposal. New Zealand must work from the markers.
There was a huge hole in the just in behind the play the ball there, and there was no way they were ever going to stop Steve Roach. He couldn't have believed his luck.
So Meninga looking to extend the lead to 4 points. Meninga from a very handy position, but even he too can have an off day. That's a simple kick that you wouldn't expect Meninga to miss, and so the Australians have to settle for just a 2-point lead. There he is, the man who scored the try, Dale Shearer, the Brisbane Bronco. Took that final pass from Paul Vaughton. And Australia with 2 tries, New Zealand with 1. It's been a thrilling encounter so far. 25 minutes into the first half as Kelly Shelford restarts play. Australia with that 2-point lead. Belcher from fullback.
That's where the Kiwis have got to play this game. They've got to get them down there, keep them down there, jam them, just jam them there all afternoon.
Bradley Clyde looking through for the gap, which Steve Roach managed to find just a few minutes ago, close to the ruck, which set up the try for Shearer. Roach again. Freeman and Goulding taking the big Balmain prop forward. Referee spotted the forward pass, and so New Zealand here with an opportunity deep inside the Australian half with the loose head. Gary Freeman has a word to his backs. They're lined out either side of the scrum, and there's a planned move on here is Shelford, but can't get through. Des Hasler, Dwayne Mann running from dummy half, Mark Horo 10 metres outside the Australian quarter line. Australians ahead by 10 points to 8. Brent Todd, centre field. Mann again at dummy half. Freeman to Mann. Stewart. Hasler goes around the neck, and a couple of other Australians try to halt the progress of Sam Stewart. Now Freeman, what's he going to do? The little Kiwi halfback trying to probe the Australian defence, but there was no way through there. Shelford with the bomb, and Belcher solid as a rock underneath it. And Gary Freeman penalised for going around the neck. He disagrees, but Mr. Tennant gives the penalty. That's twice that Freeman has been penalised today for what you might say over-vigorous play. Let's have a look at it again. Belcher, who took the bomb well and set off and jinked his way through a couple of defenders. And Gary Freeman, we're obscured there by Sam Stewart, but he certainly went high. Hasler, Des Hasler, this heady dazzler you might call him, and he showed earlier that real last week. Nonetheless, Mr. Tennant blown his whistle for an infringement by the Australians, and New Zealand received the penalty. Now, is this within the range of Kelly Shelford?
Brendan, that's the professional foul that's been going through the whole series from the Australians, and that's the first time the referees pick them up. After they play the ball, they've got a tendency to hold the marker there. That's a good, fair, just penalty.
Now, this kick, which would be within the realm of about 40 metres, and in the New Zealand camp, the decision has been made that Tony Kemp will take the longer kicks at goal, and Shelford will take the ones around the posts. So this must just about be at the end of Kelly Shelford's range. Directly in front.
Get him 10.
Ideal conditions, no wind, and the ground dry and hard, so it's good goal-kicking conditions today. Shelford trying to level the scores at 10-all. That's a fine kick from the boot of Kelly Shelford. And the ball game was all tied up at 10 points apiece, 30 minutes into the first half.
This is the stage of the game, I think, where Gary Freeman's got to grab it by the scruff of the neck. He's got to get in and just control things around that, get the forwards coming off and back the forwards up. As soon as they're at the centre of the field, when they've got play, when they've gained ascendancy to the centre, feed the outside backs. Kevin Iro's already made a tremendous break. Unfortunately, brought back with a forward pass, but that's Gary's job now. Gary Freeman's got to get in and just take control.
But it's Sam Stewart from the kick-off. That's Gary Mercer. running with plenty of speed and commitment from the ruck.
Sorry, Brenton, that's the tactics, mate. Gary's just got to get those forwards coming off him, just vary things.
It's a nice little kick from Shelford. It's an awkward one for O'Connor, and he didn't look too keen on going in there in the face of those Kiwi forwards, and New Zealand have possession. O'Connor just hung back a bit there. New Zealand again with the 6 tackle count. Stewart up to halfway.
They're the tactics, all right. See our halfbacks getting in and controlling the game, both the halfback and the 5'8". Just take the pressure off the forwards a little bit.
Goulding. But it's Meninga that smothers him in the finish, right on halfway. Brent Todd, this double international in the New Zealand team, played water polo for his country a few years ago, now an essential member of this Kiwi front row. Freeman, just losing his footing there on this Mount Smart turf, which is not quite as smooth as it used to be. Kelly Shelford with a long drop goal from 45 metres. A few months ago, the surface here was re-turfed, preparation for the Commonwealth Games, and just at the moment looks a bit rough in parts. I'm sure by the time the Commonwealth Games come around, we've got plenty of spring growth on the grass. It'll have a good, solid look about it. At the moment, it's just a bit rough. The Australians fumbling the ball in the moment inside their own quarter line as Clyde tries to straighten things up. Horton, vice captain in the Australian side, a man who stood in at Standoff in the Australian team in Wellington a couple of days ago, made a good fist of things, back in his regular position today. Meninga. Walters at dummy half. Hasler's away again. He's got support in the form of Shearer, and the cover defence closes in on Shearer as he tried to find Curry, and that was a close thing for the Kiwis as away comes Gary Mercer. Well, that looked odds on as if it was another Australian try in the making there, but now the Kiwis, and they've got some room out here on the right as Hugh McGann gets his pass away to Sam Stewart. This game being played at a furious pace at the moment. Kevin Edorf as Sam Backer goes over the top. Boy, this is hard to keep up with this stuff. Kelly Shelford again, having a very good debut at Standoff in New Zealand. Freeman, as he's crunched by Wally Lewis. Porto. Tony Kemp, who's had a quiet day so far, putting pressure on Belcher, gets away from Kemp, and now Belcher starts to straighten it up. Clyde, Shearer. Clyde there to carry it on, and a few of these players are looking a little tired, and you can't blame them at the moment. Meninga. 10 metres outside the New Zealand corner line. The score's tied at 10 points apiece. As Kerrod Walter tries to slip through the tackle, and the quick hands to Belcher. They've got a few numbers out here on the left. Belcher might have been better if he'd moved it left.
New Zealand's playing quite well at the moment, but they've got to make sure that they keep spread. They're being caught low in numbers at various times, especially over on their right-hand flank. They've got to make sure they spread a little bit more.
Darryl Williams, he slips out of the tackle of Hasler, takes play up to the quarter line. Carried on by Todd. Freeman. Kelly Shelford. Kelly Shelford. And Darryl Williams under pressure here as Meninga goes in over Williams, who was needlessly put under pressure by that misdirected pass. The long pass to Tony Kemp. Kemp, who looked very promising last week at Rotorua. Wally Lewis takes the interception, and Michael O'Connor might have too much pace. Oh, bad luck for the Kiwis, but nonetheless, if you give these Australians half a chance, they'll take it. And Michael O'Connor gets the try, and the Australians are ahead by 14 to 10. Meanwhile, concern for Wally Lewis, who sent that try up for O'Connor after he took that misdirected Kiwi pass. And let's have a look at it again. It was a move that was being mounted first of all by the Kiwis down the left wing. It was that long pass to Tony Kemp as he cut back infield and flipped the pass back looking for one of his colleagues, but the pass went loose to Lewis, to O'Connor, and Michael O'Connor gets the try.
Just trying to be a little bit fancy then and force things when they weren't on. That's the problem there. This is called test match football. You can't be frivolous with the ball. You've got to try things. You just can't force something when it's not on. And this pass here just wasn't on.
Thank you, says Wally Lewis. Quickly sees Michael O'Connor out to the right, and he had too much pace for the New Zealand cover defence. It's 14-10.
Panic situation there, a pass where it just didn't have to be a pass. You know, it was only the second tackle. We could have got more yardage up the park. It's good to see the Kiwis throwing the ball around, but they've got to remember the word control. It's got to be controlled passes. Passes have got to hit their target.
Now can be a turning point in the match. New Zealand, it's not long to go before half-time, and New Zealand have just got to control. They've got to get back. They're still in this game, but they've got to get back and gain ascendancy. They had ascendancy probably 5-10 minutes ago, but they've just put themselves under pressure with those passes.
Now, poor old Mel, he's having a terrible day with his kicking. It's pretty tough up there in the forwards, and he's got nothing left for his goal kicking, but he made a hash of that as he did the last one. So the Kiwis, despite conceding 3 first-half tries, and the third one went to this man, Michael O'Connor, are still only 4 points behind the Australians with half-time looming.
New Zealand's got to probably try and take a little bit advantage of this win. They haven't got long to go, and they've got to use this win. Try and get down and stay in that Australian 22-metre area, because that is exactly what they're going to do to us.
And Dale Shearer making a break from inside his own quarter line. Slips 3 tackles, he's up over halfway. He's trying to link up with his support, but good play there by Sam Stewart and Kevin Either as they cut him off from the support. But the Australians in a rampant mood at the moment as Clyde slips 1 tackle, and he's still going as Bradley Clyde, the Canberra teenager, and Meninga up to the quarter line, and suddenly the Australians from the kick-off have made 70 metres and a hot-on attack again. Walters, the long pass to Lewis.
It's imperative here, Brendan, that New Zealand have got to make first tackles. There's no use making these tackles 3 and 4. They've got to be the first tackles made that count.
Mr. Tennant decides to give the Kiwis a penalty for something I think one of the Australians must have done or said to him after he had made that initial ruling, and so Williams with the penalty, kicking for touch. Dwayne Mann anxious to take the ball for the free kick. Gary Mercer to Gary Freeman. And there was a real confrontation there between Wally Lewis and Daryl Williams, and there was no quarter asked or no quarter given. And I think it might be Daryl Williams that has come off second best. It was like running into a brick wall, but what do you reckon, Brian Lowe? The shoulder of Wally Lewis had something to say with that.
Yeah, certainly. Well, Wally's, even though he's a 5'8", he plays it over 15 stone, and that's fit. And Darryl will sleep well tonight, I can tell you that. He'll know he's run into somebody.
Poor old Daryl Williams. Just feeling a little groggy at the moment, but nonetheless, he has taken his place back at fullback after that confrontation with Wally Lewis. New Zealand come away with it again. Sam Stewart, who slips 1 tackle, makes play 10 metres down the field, but Horro losing the ball forward. And Australian come away with it. Gary Belcher, but the referee says no advantage to Australia, and we come back for the scrum. Again, as we saw in Rotorua, New Zealand making these breaks, but just unable to finish them off.
Well, it's the old free card trick. The Aussies are slowing things right down. They're just a few niggling tactics every now and then that the Kiwis are responding to, and the game is being played at the pace that Wally Lewis wants it to be played at. New Zealand has got to keep right away.
Now, Wally Lewis, again, is having plenty to say to the referee and the touch judge, who obviously saw something off the ball there, and when Mr. Tennant blew his whistle, it was the touch judge that came and spoke to Tennant, and now the 2 captains are being spoken to by the referee. but it was, again, Lewis. If ever he decides to retire from rugby league, I'm sure he'd make a great talk show host, because he's never short for a word as this man.
While it's tough on us, New Zealand, it's very good play on his part. He's a sly old devil, Wally, and he certainly can control things the way he thinks he wants to control.
The Australians received the loose head for the scrum to go down midway, 22 and halfway. This is the near side. The Australians receive a penalty, and Lewis to kick for touch.
It's imperative here that New Zealand keep their composure. They're just showing signs here of falling off tackles, little acts of undiscipline. They've got to hold themselves together until half-time.
Now from the free kick, it's Steve Roach again as he barges in to Sam Stewart, but they take him in the tackle 10 metres outside the New Zealand quarter line. Australia ahead by 14 points to 10. And again, there is a lot of niggle in this match, and another penalty awarded this time to New Zealand against Steve Roach, who was involved in some fisticuffs with one of the Kiwis off the ball. Mr. Tennant, who really is having to work overtime to keep control of this match. It really is at boiling temperature. And is this man, Steve Roach. He's no saint, that's for sure.
Oh, come on.
New Zealand on attack with the free kick. Freeman turns and switches it back to Hugh McGann. And there's the hooter for half-time. And so at the end of 40 minutes of very turbulent football here at Mount Smart Stadium, the Australians, the world champions, they've won the series, but they're playing like their life hinged on this performance today. A very aggressive 40 minutes of International League, and at the end of it all, 3 tries to 1. At the break, it's the Australians ahead by 14 to 10. Meters outside the New Zealand quarter line is Meninga with a nicely timed pass to Hasler. A big gap here, and there's a whole wall of green jerseys. Must be a try. Oh, goodness gracious me. It looks so easy for the Australians. Mel Meninga, who is it that scores the try, and he's not happy. Well, it was that man Hasler again, the man who set up that try in Rotorua last week. And Australia out to a 4-0 lead. Mark Otto, I think, is receiving some attention on the near side. And the interception must be a try. Yes! It's that man who did it in Christchurch, Mark Elia. Inside the Australian half, 23 minutes in the first spell. And away goes Greg Roach. He's got Bolton with him. No one home. Freeman. And Australia get the try. Dale Shearer, great support play from the Australians. They kept it alive. And they stretch the New Zealand defence, and Shearer gets the try. The long pass to Tony Kemp. Kemp, who looked very promising last week at Rotorua. Wally Lewis takes the interception, and Michael O'Connor might have too much pace. And he will start the second spell. The Australians playing from right to left, ahead by 14 points to 10. 3 first half tries. And in reply, New Zealand with a try to Mark Elia, and the other points coming from the boot of Kelly Shelf. So Darryl Williams, the New Zealand fullback, running it out from his own goal line. Couldn't quite free his pass, taken in the tackle there by Clyde and Walters. As Hugh McGann makes play up 10 metres. Carried on by James Goulding. Well, New Zealand conceded 3 tries in the first half in Christchurch, and were effectively out of the match at the break. But although they gave away 3 tries in the first half here, they're still very much in this match, Frank.
Very much so. If they can go the same as they did in the first test in Christchurch and win the second half, they're only 4 points behind out there. They get rid of the silly tactics, they can win this game.
But it's Bradley Clyde that takes the ball from dummy half inside the New Zealand half. And it was Dwayne Mann, the New Zealand hooker, who topped the tackle count in the first 40 minutes of this match. He made 16 tackles, followed by Brent Todd with 14. James Goulding made 14. As Belcher to Tony Curry. Can't get past Kevin Edorp. Meninga again tries to break through Mark Otto's tackle, but taken just 10 metres outside the New Zealand quarter line. Now Lewis putting a very high bomb up there. That's a beautiful kick from Lewis, just a metre short of the line, and it's gone loose. Darryl Williams, it eluded the hands of Williams as he went high. Recovered by Mark Elia. It's Gary Mercer running from dummy half, makes 10 metres, good run from Mercer. Mark Elia, his fellow wing, playing at dummy half. Steve Roach, the Australian, prop forward, top the Kangaroo tackle count in the first half with 11. Meninga playing today in the unaccustomed position for him. In the second row, made 10 tackles in the first half, and Bradley Clyde 8. From the kick, it's Michael Hancock. Gets away from Hotto. That's as far as he goes. Dumped by Kevin Edorp. Wally Lewis playing a dummy half. Curry running onto it. Takes play up to the halfway mark. Walters to Meninga. Lewis, although taken by Shelford, still gets his pass to Hasler. The Australians with this wonderful ability to keep it alive, and suddenly the gaps are opening up again. But a few handling errors there by the Australians. There certainly was a try on there.
Notice the Kiwis just started hanging off the big man out there at the moment. Again, the first tackles have got him going low, and the second man's got to cool the ball.
McGann to Freeman. Was fair. Brent Todd running hard at these Australians. We speak volumes of the attacking abilities of these Australians, but it's worth remembering now that in 2.5 test matches, the only tries New Zealand had scored have come from intercepts. One by Mark Elia in the first test, and another by the same player here in the second test. Very few scoring opportunities have come the Kiwis' way as they try yet again to find a way through the Australian defence. Losing the ball and coming up with it was Backo to Vaughton.
Brent Todd's been doing a lot of work running the ball up. It was just a bit unfortunate that he did lose it in the tackle there before, but he is working very hard, but some of it I feel is a little wasted because he hasn't got the support coming along with him, and so he's just being picked off by the Australian defenders.
Shearer, dummy half, takes the pass from Lewis again, running straight across the field. Makes no real yardage at all. As Walters to Lewis again, kicking the ball across the paddock. It's an awkward little bounce which is rolling into no man's land, and Sam Stewart has to scamper back there as both the Curry and O'Connor quickly up on the New Zealand forward. Edorp, who's been a heavily marked man in this series, again taken there around the ankles by Meninga. Kelly Shelford tries to wrong foot the defence. Freeman. Dwayne Mann. And there's Brent Todd on another one of those bullocking sorties of his. To Dwayne Mann, a dummy half. As he bounces off Clyde and Backo. Kelly Shelford. It's Hugh McGann who puts the big downtowner in. It's not a bad kick from the New Zealand captain. In fact, it's a perfect kick. Rolls right down to within a metre of the Australian line. O'Connor having to run it out from his own goal line. And they take him inside the quarter line. Belcher. 2 plays and the Australians have made nearly 50 metres. Lewis to Hasler. Meninga just hanging off of the pass. Tries to slip it to Mike O'Connor over the top of Curry. Just being a little too clever, but fortunately for the Kangaroos, O'Connor retains possession.
Get off him that far! Get off there!
So Walters, Steve Roach, who really has had a big game here at Mount Smart Stadium this afternoon. Lewis again with that very clever little kick, once again putting pressure on the New Zealanders inside their own half. And Hugh McGann really had to scamper to get that. Just couldn't free his pass to Tony Kemp out on the right. One of the more promising runs we've seen from Kevinera on the match so far. Shelford, Kelly Shelford. McGann, where's the support? Freeman. And the ball has gone loose. It's a real lolly scramble down there at the moment. New Zealand have it.
This is the area they've got to keep calm. They've just got to concentrate here. They've got the Australians rattled. They've got to concentrate.
Todd, about 10 metres outside the Australian 22. They trail by 14 points to 10 as Dwayne Mann bounces off Wally Lewis. That's the Australian quarter line. Goulding, Freeman, Sam Stewart turns to Freeman again. This is good stuff from the New Zealand forwards as they shift the ball quickly. Todd inside the Australian quarter now. Freeman spinning it wide to Kelly Shelford, kicking, putting pressure on O'Connor, runs straight into Sam Stewart, 2 metres from his own line.
I would have liked to have seen Kelly fire the ball out there. New Zealand was in a situation for first time for a while. They actually had 3 on 1 out wide. I think they took the wrong option. It's just one of those things that happened, but I think a try went missing.
Now Bolton loses it. Kevinera says thank you very much as he slips under Wally Lewis's tackle. I think he lost his footing, however. And New Zealand again hot on attack inside the quarter line to Freeman, to Todd. But again, the unforced error. The New Zealand were hot on attack and the Australians come away with it.
You'll notice from that shot, the Australians were standing around just bunched. They were rattled. They've been put under a lot of pressure, but New Zealand unfortunately let them off the hook. But they're like any other side. If you put them under pressure, they'll feel the pinch, and they've certainly been feeling it the last 2 or 3 minutes.
And Lewis decides to put some pressure on New Zealand by kicking the ball deep, and however, it's Darryl Williams that's running it up towards halfway. He's been bounced a few times by the Australians, but he's still got his pass away as Lewis goes in over the top of Gary Freeman. Tony Kemp. And there's certainly no lack of commitment from the New Zealanders in the second half. They've come out fired up and determined to know that they can still win this match. Stewart.
Good to see the Kiwis extending the ball wider, Graham.
I think it is. They're playing with a lot more purpose, a lot more support.
Now there's a real lineup of black jerseys here. There's Kelly Shelford. He gets his pass away to McGann. Freeman. Earl. That's the 5th tackle. Now what are the Kiwi tactics here? The little kick from Kelly Shelford. It's not a bad looking one either as Hancock goes up. He took it well. Brave catch there from Michael Hancock. 10 metres from his own line.
This is where we say we've got them in jail. Now we've got to keep them here in this area. We've got to actually turn defence into attack in this area.
That's right, Frank. Just jam them there. Just jam them there. The Australians, for the world champions they are bunched at this stage of the match. They're all bunched. A blanket would cover a lot of them. And New Zealand's got to take advantage of that.
As Shearer tries to run it out. Couldn't find Steve Roach. And Walters at dummy half. Now to Roach, using the big man to run the ball wide, gets as far as Lewis. It's taken by Dwayne Mann, and there is number 9, and Sam Stewart. Dwayne Mann, who topped the Kiwi tackle count in the first half with 16, and Belcher kicking deep again. Waiting for it is his opposite number, Darryl Williams, who took it well. That ball was rolling rapidly when it came to Williams, and often it's easy to knock them on or fumble it like that, but he took it cleanly, and New Zealand away again. Gary Mercer. taken by Sandbacker. Freeman with that long rocket pass, getting it wide to Gary Mercer, who was clearly interfered with there. Whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. But Tony Curry made no attempt to get out of the way of Mercer after he had kicked it. The Australians with it. Gary Belcher, 10 metres inside his own half.
New Zealand have got to work now. They've really got to work. I know it's a boring saying, but it's a fact. They've got to work now. They've got Australia under a little bit of pressure, and they've got to take advantage of it. I'd like to see them when they next receive the ball to attack down their left-hand flank, because I think the Australians are missing a little bit down that side of the field. The openings seem to have been appearing there, but they have been concentrating a little bit too much on this right-hand side of the field.
12 minutes of play in the second half of this match, and no change to the half-time score. Australia ahead by 14-10. 3 tries to 1 in the first spell, and certainly some of the niggle that peppered the first 40 minutes has disappeared from the match, and we're seeing some pulsating football, and most of it's coming from the Kiwis in the second spell, but can they turn it into points? They weren't able to at Rotorua last week. In fact, the Kiwis have really started the second spell, Frank Endicott, rather like they did at Rotorua at the beginning of the match last week.
Definitely. They keep this up, they're in with a big chance. They've just got to keep extending the ball wide and running the Australians around.
Shelford, Horno. Mel Meninga didn't shirk the tackle on Horno there. Stopped the big New Zealand forward. Gary Freeman gets away from Roach, but Clyde took him.
That was a change over there, and that's not on this level of football. There should have been something set up there for the kick, the long probing kick or whatever, but there should have been something on.
It's the first one we've seen in the match so far. New Zealand unable to get rid of the ball on the sixth tackle, and the Australians getting the changeover. Now they're inside the New Zealand half. One of their rare excursions into the New Zealand half in the second spell, which is now 14 minutes old. The Australians receive a penalty for what I suspect was a foot trip on Walters. And it's about 40 metres out in centre field. Lewis has the ball. And Michael O'Connor is being called forward to kick for goal. Meninga, who was taking the shorter kicks, but O'Connor for this, the longer one. And I think it was for a penalty on one of the Kiwis, on Kerrod Walter.
Yes, I think it was Huey McGann hadn't cleared the ruck, and he actually tackled Walters as he went past from a position that he shouldn't have been in.
So it's about a 35-metre kick for Michael O'Connor. And the Australians not faring much better in the goal kicking today than the New Zealanders. That's one miss to Michael O'Connor. We've seen Mel Meninga make a hash of a few as well, and the Australians, despite being ahead by 3 tries to 1 in that count, only with a 4-point lead.
It looks as though Tony Gordon has had some good words to say to the team at half-time. He's probably told them not to get sucked in with this niggling business that was starting to creep in the game. Get out, remember what the game plan was. Get out and play your style, your New Zealand style of game, and it is paying off for them at the moment. They are in this game with a big chance, but now as another test matches are a game of 80 very important minutes, and these minutes that we're going through now are probably the most important so far that we've had.
Thing is, Graham, they must score first, mustn't they? They must score next.
Yeah, that's right. It's they can play as well as they like, but unless they convert some of this good play into points, really it's been all to waste.
Lewis hesitates and can't get his pass away. 10 metres inside the New Zealand half. Yes, the Australians with this 4-point lead. If they score again, they could be into the 10-point lead. This could be it. Clyde, can he get away from Williams? Oh, another great tackle from Darryl Williams. Now the referee has given the try. Williams claims there was a double movement. And what does the referee say? No, he gives a penalty to New Zealand against Clyde with a double movement after his tackle.
That's a correct decision, that's a definite double movement.
And you'll see them make the break from Clyde. Now look at this magnificent tackle from Williams. Now watch Clyde, no doubt about it. The double movement, the old-fashioned rabbit, as they say, and he was rightly penalised for that.
Correct decision from the referee. It just makes me wonder just how many points Daryl Williams has saved for New Zealand in this series.
Oh, he's a great player, he certainly is. Actually, that break that just occurred from the Australians there actually came again from New Zealand being caught out at the markers. Both markers went the wrong way. They've got to concentrate. Don't let this game slip away from them by not concentrating around that play the ball area.
So the saviour of New Zealand, Daryl Williams, getting the kick in. As Michael O'Connor fends off a couple of rather weak Kiwi tackles, but Iro and Freeman eventually wrap up the Australian speedster, who scored one of their 3 tries in the first half. As Hancock coming in from the right wing. So New Zealand nearly saw the test match disappear there as Clyde broke the New Zealand defence. That would have given them at least an 8-point lead. New Zealand would have had to score at least twice. But now they're still in this match, just 4 points adrift. As the touch judge comes on and has words with Mr. Tennant, the referee. And a replacement, I think, being made in the New Zealand team here as Mark Horo is leaving the field.
What a great day it must be for Kurt Sherlock, because coming on in his first test match, I'm sure he's been really looking forward to this opportunity.
It's been a fairly fiery introduction to Test Match League for Kurt Sherlock. He's only been on the field about 20 seconds and the game has stopped after another explosive skirmish. That's the first one we've seen. There's Kurt Sherlock out to the left there. In fact, there's Brendan Tuta. It's Tuta that's come on. Yes, it's Mark Horo that's left the field, and Brendan Tuta has replaced him.
Sorry about that, mate. I called Sherlock, but got the wrong team list there.
And the referee, after word with the 2 captains, has given the Australians a penalty from the skirmish. Seeking added clarification from Mr. Tennant, and Lewis from 10 metres inside his own half, kicking the touch.
Brendan Tuta just could be the player we need at this stage, because it's gone beyond needing defending players out, but we've got to take this energy and get some points. And Brendan Tuta is a lively player.
However, it's Australia at the moment for the first time really in the second half, which is now 19 minutes old inside the New Zealand quarter line. No change to the half-time score, 14-10. As Hasler, so dangerous from those 20-metre plays, as we saw at Rotorua, but this time the defence nobbled him. Backo. Lewis hanging on, slips a very clever little pass to Meninga, to Belcher. Wonderful understanding amongst these Australians. Kerrod Walker.
There's some great camera work there. I think the technicians are doing a great job. They're right in amongst this game.
The little kick, and it's a little deep. Well, Graham, I thought you were here talent scouting for rugby league players, not for television cameramen.
Well, you can always recognise quality, doesn't matter what it is, mate.
So from the restart, it's New Zealand, the ball. Reacting to the tackle there of Steve Roach, and yes, the referee receives a penalty. He looks mortified by it. And look at Steve Roach. Yes, that's, as they say, a bit of the old Carlaw Park coat hanger there. And rightly so, Mr. Tennant says New Zealand receive a penalty.
this game slowed down just a little bit. Kiwis got to just pick things up, get it back to the level it was before, because they were looking dangerous. And if they can get the ball out to their left-hand flank, they're going to score. There's nothing sure.
He's having a very good second half as again he breaks a couple of tackles, and he's been doing that 2 or 3 times in this spell, having his best period in this series so far. And New Zealand now down again to the Australian quarter line. Dwayne Mann at dummy half to Gary Freeman, Kelly Shelford, Brendan Tuta. Along the chain to Sam Stewart. And away goes Mark Ely. Freeman. James Goulding up to the Australian quarter line. Sam Stewart again. With this Australian defence absolutely refusing to yield. This is the 5th tackle. Now Freeman with a little kick over the back, putting pressure on Belcher again, but the Australian fullback just getting to the ball before those Kiwi forwards did. 2 metres from his own line. So Connor tries to run it out. Australia inside their quarter line. We've now had 22 minutes of play in the second spell, and still no change to that half-time score. Australia ahead 14-10. After they scored first, but the Kiwis, through the try by Mark Ely, were leading at one stage. As away goes Walters, and he had Hasler there with him, but the ball was knocked forward, and New Zealand regained possession. He couldn't quite find Hasler. But again, it's lost possession by the Kiwis as Belcher steps out of one tackle, and the mistakes coming thick and fast from both teams at the moment.
Graham, I notice when New Zealand throw the wide ball, they keep the ball alive. Australia definitely look vulnerable.
Well, they do. New Zealand's got to realise they didn't take advantage of it. Trying to take them on too much down the middle is okay as long as there's support. But the Kiwis are looking very, very strong and menacing every time they get the ball out wide, and they've got to keep doing it. That left-hand flank in particular, I think, is looking a prime spot for a New Zealand try. Every time they've taken the ball to the centre of the field, the Australians seem to keep most of their defence on this right-hand, New Zealand's right-hand side, because they are concentrating on Kevin Ira. I think that if the Kiwis take advantage of that and get the ball out to the other side, the try will come for sure.
So McGann takes the kick for New Zealand, the penalty kick, which it's a good kick for McGann. He makes 30 metres. And New Zealand on attack. From the penalty, it's McGann again. Frees up to Darryl Williams. Darryl Williams. And what does the referee say? Yes, there's a try. He checked with a touch judge, and New Zealand have got it. It's 14-all, and just look at the little break here from fullback Darryl Williams. A beautiful pass from Hugh McGann as captain as he slips it to Gary Mercer, and Mercer, he just got it down. Boy, that was close.
It was a well-worked move that I'm sure the boys have been spending a lot of time all week practicing that, and it's paid off. It's a great try. It's well set up, well planned, and well taken.
Well, I don't know, Frank Endicott, how did you see it? It was a real hairline decision.
I've always said margins go towards the attacking team, and I'll go for this one too. It's good to see the finishing there for the first time in the series.
Well, there's the ball, as you can see, just a half a centimetre in the field of play. Mr. Tennant, who checked with the touch judge before awarding the try, and now New Zealand are back on level terms. It's 14-all, and boy, have we got a ball game here at Mount Smart Stadium.
Yes, it's very, very pleasant for New Zealand because they have taken the initiative through the second half. They've been in control of the game most of the time. It's only really when a couple of niggly incidents came in that the game actually slowed down. New Zealand needed to pick up the pace, and that's what they did. I think the whole of New Zealand can be grateful for Darryl Williams' effort in particular.
Chance for Kelly Shelford to put the Kiwis ahead again. It's just a half a metre in from touch. But it's so well out to the left. So, with just 14 minutes minutes of the match to go. Here he is, the man that scored the try, Gary Mercer. Recalled for the New Zealand team for the second test. Played well in Rotorua last week and fully justified his position in the New Zealand team today. Coming in for Tony Iro on the right wing as Elia moved back onto the left wing and managed to just get the ball down, according to the referee anyway, before he and the ball were taken into touch.
As I was saying before, Darryl Williams has had a magnificent series. He's certainly saved New Zealand's bacon time and time again, and I'm just pleased that he was the one that actually thrust onto the ball and set up the try. That was great initiative on his part.
So, from the restart, these World Cup points very much in the balance now. The series has been decided, but remember, as this is the last test in the series, there's 2 points at stake here towards the next World Cup. So plenty of incentive here for both these teams, even the Australians who won the series, and New Zealand, of course, can salvage a lot of pride, as well as a lot of worth from the series if they win today. I don't believe it.
Kelly Shelford will take those all day if he keeps getting penalties. He won't mind as long as New Zealand keep getting the penalties.
Anyway, New Zealand from the free kick are exactly where they want to be again, right down on the Australian quarter line. 3 minutes to Sam Stewart.
This is the position they've got to attack from.
Hugh McGann. Stewart. Now the Australians have had a pretty tough and demanding tour of New Zealand. I wonder just how fit some of these fellas are. I think the drop goal was on there, but the pass was a stray to Kelly Shelford. But nonetheless, he recovered well and straightened the attack up. Now we're going to see the drop goal. There's Brendan Tuta. And where did the ball finish up? I think it might well have been Bradley Clyde that came up with it for Australia. Fumbled by Backo, and New Zealand have it. That will suit the New Zealand purposes admirably.
It's all called pressure, and New Zealand's putting plenty of it on at the moment, and the Australians are cracking under it.
It's important New Zealand hold the ball here for 6 tackles.
Well, I suppose, Graham, New Zealand must have a bit of a dilemma here. They go for the drop goal or the try.
Well, as Frank just pointed out, I think a drop goal is always okay taken as long as it's on, but a try could be on as well.
Here it comes from Sam Stewart. So that's 2 attempted drop goals, but this is always the danger. If it doesn't succeed, the opposition can come away with it as they have done.
A drop goal is a specialist clue, and it takes a specialist to do it. You can't just fire the ball out and let anyone have a go who might just have one shot a year at training. It's got to be taken by a specialist. New Zealand would probably be better off going for a try. There's still plenty of time on the board. All they've got to do is keep control.
10 minutes to the match remaining. The score's a tie. It's 14 all as Australia receive a penalty, and it's Brendan Tuta, the baby-faced assassin. He's back, and his Al Capone tactics, I'm afraid, copping a penalty there as he was picked up by the referee and Wally Lewis.
It's just called second effort now. New Zealand have got to draw on the second effort. They've just got to go hard. If Australia go hard, they've got to go harder.
Steve Roach, Kenneth Walters, Sam Backo, who's had a quiet game today. Big Sam Backo hasn't been anywhere near as prominent as he was, particularly in that first test. The Australians with one of their few raids into the New Zealand quarter. They're only 15 metres short of the line. Now, will the Australians try for the drop goal? No, it's Shearer. Makes 5 metres. Centre field from a very handy position. But it's Lewis, Wally Lewis. And a little bit of magic there from Wally Lewis that backfired in the end as the pass went Australian, picked up by Sam Stewart. Stewart, who must have lost the ball, I think, when he dived on it, because Australia received the loose head, only a couple of metres from the line. Lewis and Hasler doubling round, but Lewis couldn't get his pass out. Vaughton, this is where the New Zealand defence has just got to be 100%.
They've got to work at that marker. The marker's got to concentrate here.
Meninga, and he slips the pass to Bradley Clyde through the tackle of Darryl Williams, and that could be the series and the World Cup points. Bradley Clyde, who was so close a few minutes ago, but this time he did slip the tackle of Darryl Williams, and it's 18-14 to the Australians. The pressure from the Australians. Meninga, who just jinked, slipped the pass to Clyde, Bradley Clyde through the tackle of Williams, and the winning of the match may be.
Well, it's a shame that, because New Zealand have been playing well in the last 10 minutes or so, but that's what happens if you don't work in defence, and test match football is all about defence. It's all about holding the opposition out and taking the chances when they come along, as Australia just have. But New Zealand has got to be positive. They've got to get back, throw all caution to the wind, just fire the ball around. They've got to hang on, use the ball through their 6 tackles, but fire around to the flanks.
This young Bradley Clyde's impressed me in the whole series, and that's justice that he scored that. And I believe he's a loose forward more so than a second rower.
So now O'Connor with what might be 2 valuable points. Who knows? It gives them that 6-point cushion. So the Kiwis now have to score twice to win the match. And of course, a converted try to get back on equal footing again with the Australians. At 20-14, we've got about 7 minutes of the match to go.
Yes, Frank just mentioned Bradley Clyde. It's great when you see these young players emerging into the game of rugby league, because he's only 19 years old. He's certainly got a great future as a Australian representative. But in saying that, there's a couple of young New Zealand Kiwis that have got big futures as well. I think Kelly Shelford's taken every opportunity that's come his way today, and I think he can hold his hand up at the end of the game. He certainly hasn't been overawed, and he's played with great confidence.
But it, I guess, was the wise old head of Mel Meninga that deserves much of the credit for that try, for that beautiful pass he managed to slip in the tackle.
Certainly Mel's a great player, and he's been a great asset to the Australian game for many years, and he's still got plenty going in him.
So it was the 2 Canberra Raiders, Clyde and Meninga, that combined to give Australia the 6 points. Now Darryl Williams, it's ironic, I suppose, the man whose tackling has been one of the outstanding features of the series should let that tackle slip and allow Clyde through for the try. Sam Stewart. Gets the kick away, and O'Connor from just outside his corner line. Brendan Tuta going in, and there is Kurt Sherlock, who has come onto the field at last, number 14, who saw him briefly as he took that tackle. So a very special moment for Kurt Sherlock, and a special moment in the history of both rugby league and rugby union. It's a very rare occasion to see a player from this country who represents both codes at international level.
Notice the Australians playing very basic football here. They're going to take 3, 4, even 5 plays up and then put the kick in.
Steve Roach up into the New Zealand half. 5 minutes of the match remaining, as Belcher going for a drop goal from about 40 metres. Williams. And goal-mouth dropout. That's probably the most disappointed man on the field at the moment, the New Zealand fullback Darryl Williams. Williams. Kick taken by Shearer. Slips it to O'Connor, makes 20 metres. Australia, I'm sure, just content to sit on this 6-point lead, which will give them a clean sweep, of course, as Meninga again, who's had a marvellous game, gets it as far as Bradley Clyde, who's running like a 3-quarter. In fact, there used to be a centre in his schoolboy days, pushing off the New Zealand tackles. What a try! That's the series, and that certainly is the match. Magnificent try by the Australians. Or has he brought a forward pass? I think that last movement has been, that last pass has been ruled a forward pass, and the Australians have to settle for the scrum with New Zealand getting the loose head. Bradley Clyde, who just brushed away the New Zealand tackles, and it must have been this last pass to Hasler that was forward. It certainly was a marginal one. Wally Lewis was anything but happy with the decision, but New Zealand can breathe again, still trailing by just the 6 points. And Freeman, Darryl Williams, Kelly Shelton, just a couple of metres outside the New Zealand quarter line. Taken by Hancock. He makes his 5 metres, so the Kiwis are able to tackle him. The tackle affected by Mann just inside the Australian half. Time running out for the New Zealanders, just 2.5 minutes of the match remaining. Tony Curry on halfway. And the commitment just seems to have gone from the New Zealanders. I think the wind was taken out of their sails by that try from Clyde. And the Australians are calling the tune at the moment as Borton takes play up into the New Zealand half. In fact, I don't think the Kiwis have been in the Australian half since that try.
I think they've played quite well in the second half, but unfortunately they just haven't had the firepower. There's been total commitment, I think.
Fumbled by Belcher, and New Zealand get the loose head.
Yes, there's been total commitment, and Tony Gordon's probably very pleased because New Zealand scored a try from set play, which is very pleasing to the coach. It's not over yet.
He couldn't get his pass to Mark Elia, the ball goes astray.
I think all credit must be given to the Australian side.
There he is, Kurt Sherlock, who today becomes the first New Zealander for something like 35 years to represent his country in both rugby league and rugby union at test match level. The last man to do it was Jimmy Haig, in fact, way back in the late 1940s.
Yes, I think all credit to the Australian side. They're well-disciplined, professional side. You know, they do things at times that Kiwis don't like seeing because we're one-eyed towards our own goals. But you can't take anything away from them. They are a great side.
It's been a thoroughly professional performance from the Australians, and Tim is not surprisingly just getting a little frayed at the moment into the last couple of minutes. But boy, if it is a barroom brawl, it's a pretty tight one.
These blokes have been hammering one another now for 3 tests, and they're probably just about getting ready to have a big drink together tonight, have a nice beer and sit down and reflect on the series. They'll all be mates after it, and I'm sure they'll have plenty of stories to tell one another.
Now the Australians receive a penalty as a result of that fracas, and it's imminently kickable, and I imagine they will kick for goal, and it may well be the final act of the match. And the penalty probably going against Sam Stewart there for going in high with an elbow with Steve Roach, and even though the Australian managed to bounce the New Zealander, the Australians rightly receive a penalty for that dangerous tackle. And now O'Connor looking to extend the New Zealand lead to the Australian lead to 8 points. 1 try apiece in the second spell, but it really was the try that O'Connor got just before half-time. Made the telling difference, and there is the hooter, the final act of the match from Michael O'Connor, and he raises the flags. So it's fitting in. And Wally Lewis has kept the listened his Australian side to a clean sweep over the Kiwis. They've won the series 3-0. They take the 2 points from the World Cup, and even with all that, Lewis still looks an unhappy man. Why he should be, I do not know. But the Australians have won the match by 22-14 after they led 14-10 at half-time. But another brave effort from the Kiwis, but in the end, they just didn't make enough, I guess, Graham Lowe, of the opportunities that came their way.
Yeah, that's right. It's tough, but that's the way it goes. In Test match football, or like any other game, you get presented very few chances, and when you do get them, you've got to be able to take them. But more importantly, you've got to be able to come up with a good defensive screen, a continuous defensive screen, and unfortunately, that's the main thing that has let the Kiwis down.
Kurt Sherlock, who's had his first taste of Test match league, albeit only 10 minutes. Dwayne Mann, Kerrod Walters, Frank Endicott.
Well, I thought it was a valiant approach to the game today by the New Zealanders, and I think everyone in New Zealand should be very proud of them. You must remember they were playing the world champions, and I think they come out of this series with a lot of credit.
Well, certainly from, I guess, the half-time point in that first test, which was clearly won by the Australians, but from that point on it was a very competitive series. Well, somewhere down there amongst the youngsters is Tony Palmer, who's busily trying to get hold of Hugh McGann, but certainly I think from probably half-time in that first test on, it was a very competitive series, Frank.
Yes, you know, New Zealand never gave it away at any stage in any test. They just kept fighting, and they showed true Kiwi spirit out there today. It was good to see a more creative approach from the Kiwis today.
OK, well, I think Tony Palmer has done a sterling effort. He's got Hugh McGann down there somewhere. Tony Palmer.
Hugh, commiserations. It slipped out of the bag there towards the end of it. Do you think that an ill-disciplined first half cost you the game?
No, I don't think it was that bad. We were only a couple of points behind, I think, at half-time, and a few indiscretions in the game, certainly in general. I wouldn't say specifically in the first half. We maybe told there were a few things happened out there, a few things said that went unchecked by the referee, and I don't know how some people get away with a few things out there, but as part of the game, it's gone now, unfortunately.
Do you think that there was a lot of unnecessary stuff out there that seemed to continue, and it seemed that the referee did let it go all the time?
Yeah, I really can't blame the ref in a way. He had a reasonably good game, I thought, but like I said, there was a few things that were said and done out there to the ref that normally people wouldn't get away with, but it's unfortunate that some people can get away with that thing, and maybe they're using their status to a degree where they're getting away with a lot where they shouldn't.
Apart from the fact that you didn't win, what didn't go according to plan?
Well, basically, we played the way we wanted to play. Again, we had mistakes that shouldn't have happened, just basic errors that, unfortunately, we can't overcome. Playing against a side like Australia, it's very hard. They're the world champions. They're a team that, for once in about 5 or 6 years, we're picked on form, and it's hard to play against a side that's in form, and coming up against them fresh out of a State of Origin series didn't make it any easier for us, but they're a very well-drilled side. You can't take it away from them. They play disciplined football.
Hugh, thanks very much.
Thanks, Tony.
The New Zealand captain Hugh McGann speaking to Tony Palmer in the New Zealand dressing room after the Kangaroos have made a clean sweep here on the third test at Mount Smart Stadium. They led 14-10 at half-time, 6 tries in the match, 4 to the Australians, 2 to the New Zealanders, but at the end, after 80 minutes of thrilling rugby league here at Mount Smart Stadium, it was the Kangaroos, the world champions, that had prevailed by 22-14.